Hey guys, it's Nathan from the Kentucky Cycling YouTube channel. Welcome to the next Zoom interview in the Kentucky Cycling Connection series. I'm excited to introduce my guest today, who is Josh Patton from the Bluegrass Mountain Cup. Josh, welcome.
Thanks, Nathan.
Why don't we start by having you tell us a little bit about yourself, including how you got into cycling?
Oh, wow. So back 20 years ago when I was 8 years old, we just had a local BMX track built in London, Kentucky. That's where I grew up. Loved riding a bike, so my dad took me out, was hooked immediately, bought a BMX race bike, started racing, did that for years, raced on a national circuit, worked my way up through the amateur ranks as a child and a teenager, and then went to college to race at Lindsey Wilson College. Had never really raced a mountain bike until I got there. Had played around on them a lot. Had raced road a little bit prior. Started racing mountain bikes there. Loved mountain biking. Became pretty decent at it. Over the next 4 years, became a professional mountain bike racer. Raced pro for a couple of years after that, and now have returned to Lindsey Wilson to be the coach. So over the last 2 decades, it's been a lot of bikes and a whole lot of experiences and a variety of cycling. So it's pretty fun.
I don't know that I've ever sat down and had a conversation with a former professional mountain bike racer. So talk to me a little bit about your journey. What did that look like? How did you go from like the college circuit to doing pro, and what sponsorship looked like? I'm curious.
Yeah. So at Lindsay, if you're familiar with collegiate racing, or at least our program, we're a pretty competitive program. We've had lots of national champions. We've had world champions, Olympians, the whole World Cup races, the whole 9 yards with, legitimate racing, amazing coaching staff, and just some of the best training facilities you could ever access, especially in this part of the country. So we would train together as a team. We would practice together as a team. We would go to races all over the country together, supported by the college, funded by the college for those collegiate races, and I was training alongside Olympians and national champions and, tons of who are now my lifelong friends. And you can't help but get fast. When you're like roommates with these people, when you're on the team with these people, when you see them every single day, you just bump shoulders and get faster. Of course, there's that competitive drive. You're always, trying to beat each other at practice or go a little bit more in the gym, just because that's your nature when you're like 18 to 22 years old. It let me grow into being a stronger cyclist. And I had the desire, I had the resources for training. And yeah, I turned pro, I think, my sophomore year of college. You can race pro and race collegiate. That's not like a conflict like it is in basketball and all that stuff. Got sponsored, had a lot of small grassroots sponsorship, and that grew into a lot of bigger sponsorships, and a factory ride with Airborne Bicycles. And I rode for them for a good handful of years, and they really helped start my pro racing career. Did that for 4 or 5 years, and then kind of just scaled it back a little bit when I've kind of burnt that match out. Now just focus more on fun projects, fun things I want to do, and not the stress of racing, because you can burn out on it pretty quick, especially in downhill where you get hurt so much. That was my icing on the cake there. But yeah, I still work with a good handful of sponsors that support me, even though I'm not racing at a pro level like I was. I still play and piddle and do a lot of cool, fun community activities and various things like that. So.
Well, that's cool. So are you from Kentucky originally, or did you come to Kentucky? Did Lindsey Wilson bring you here?
No, I was born and raised in London, Kentucky, Laurel County. It was crazy because I didn't realize how great of mountain biking we had there until pretty much I was in college, and right before and during college. I wished I'd got into mountain biking a lot sooner.
It's interesting. London bills themselves as the cycling capital of Kentucky. And, I have a hard time arguing with that argument. I mean, there is a lot there in London, be it one of the largest organized, road rides in the state with the Redbud Ride, tons of gravel, which I've been just discovering in that area. And then, of course, multiple mountain bike, and I think people are probably most familiar with the Shelter We Trace along the lake there. But some really good stuff. So, from those routes, you went fast and kept going faster. Sounds like. Well, cool, man. So now you're the coach at Lindsey Wilson for the mountain bike. Now they have a road racing team as well?
Yeah, we do all 5 disciplines. We do track, mountain, cyclocross, BMX, and road. So I'm the head coach, so I get to do everything.
Wow. If something's got 2 wheels, sounds like you can ride it, or maybe
Yeah.
even less than 2. But tell me about the bikes in your the bike stable. How many and what are they?
Currently, my bike stable's at 2 bikes, and that's my road bike, which is a Giant Defy, and my mountain bike, which is a Giant Anthem 29er. I don't have a cross bike, a track bike. I have a BMX bike, but I don't ride it anymore because the small wheels that just can't go from 29er to 20-inch. Like it throws me way off. So I've just let go of that. But yeah, I usually don't have time to like ride all disciplines because I'm usually too busy coaching. So
Sure.
I kind of have to like narrow it down and focus. At cross races or riding cross or practicing cross, there's so much going on in the day and so many people are back and forth during a cross racing day or weight racing weekend, plus the mechanic duties that come with being the coach and all that stuff. There's not a chance to even get on a bike. Same with track. There's a lot of mechanic and a lot of off the track things at track that go on. So yeah, I play on the road bike and play on the mountain bike here at home and go on a lot of our training rides and everything like that with the team. And those are my 2 preferred ones too. Those are my 2 favorite. So
Cool. And Lindsey Wilson has I guess a mountain bike race course down there as well.
yep, we own a 16-acre facility in Columbia that the school has purchased for the cycling team. And we have a dual slalom track, a BMX track with an Olympic-size starting hill, a short track course, a cyclocross course, dirt jumps, pump track, tons of random fun stuff to ride, all right there, kind of nestled in town.
Is that something that is exclusively for your guys' use, or is it open to the community as well?
Currently, it's ours. Trying to figure out some good, safe ways to open it. We would love to open it to the public as fundraising opportunity and as just to have a community resource. But there's some things you can get hurt on currently, so we got to figure that out. We've built things for the expert to professional level racer
Yeah.
over the years, not the 6-year-old to 60-year-old somewhat beginner
Oh
levels.
yeah, or just an old fat guy like me. I mean, I'm
Yeah,
definitely more wheels on the ground. So if I hit some of hit that course, probably just be some involuntary air
yeah.
happening.
There's some gap jumps with no middle, so we gotta bring the risk factor down before we
Yeah,
get
I hear
anywhere.
you. I hear you. All right. Well, cool. Well, turning our attention to the Bluegrass Mountain Cup. For those of us who aren't familiar, tell me a little bit about how that got started and how it sort of changed over the years.
Yeah, so it was originally started as Bluegrass Mountain Cup by RJ Harris from Louisville. He's the guy that does with Brian Siegel the short track series that everybody knows and loves. RJ just didn't have a lot of time to deal with it, and we talked about maybe myself taking it over where I do have more time to deal with this between my cycling coaching endeavors and my marketing endeavors and everything like that. We felt it was right, so I had helped host a couple races for him in the past when it was his series. And when I took it over, I changed the name slightly to Bluegrass Mountain Cup because we added trail running to the mix. On a race weekend where we're going, wherever it could be in Kentucky, setting up for a race, it's not extremely hard to add in a trail running factor to the
Mm.
race. We tested this out last year at the Green River race, which we hosted here in Campbellsville, and it worked well. It worked perfectly. And it just made sense. Also, because there's not a great 5K, 10K trail running series in the state. There's a lot of one-off events, but there's no series. And a series offers a lot of stuff that these one-off events don't. We know that as mountain bikers, and the trail runners need that experience too. I trail run often, mainly because I usually sometimes get hurt on the bike, and then there's that, and then vice versa. So it's always a back and forth between I'm off the bike, I'm off the trail running, so on and so forth. But the Bluegrass Mountain Cup this year was going to be our first debut year doing all mountain biking and trail running events at all of our stops. We're going to scale it back a little bit, as a kind of new start for it all. We were only going to do 4 races, but with COVID things, we decided to pull the plug. So now we're focused on getting these events in for next year, planning around that. Some of our big focuses with these series races and with the series as a whole is bringing really quality level mountain bike events and trail running events to the state of Kentucky. I mean, everyone knows we have amazing trails, tons of trail systems. Like, it's hard to narrow down the list a lot of times to pick where we're going to go. But the one thing we're missing is like the national level race. And our race series is going to be USA Cycling sanctioned, and some people hate that. It really adds like no cost hardly to the rider fee. We keep it as minimal as possible. It's more about covering the cost than it is about making money from this standpoint. USA Cycling fees, their insurance fees and all that stuff are not what you guys think it would be. The anti-USAC people, buying insurance that is very questionable, that's cheaper, is just not worth it for the race director to go out and buy like there's a 50 cents per rider policy, here it is, and it looks like it's wrote on a napkin, and it's barely faxed back to you the right way kind of thing. And that's not safe for you or for the race directors or for anyone involved in the races. There's a lot more safety for everyone when USA Cycling is involved. And it allows people to start aiming towards the national racing caliber. If you have a dream of racing at nationals and competing for a jersey, and this especially goes to our NICA League kids who are in that younger age group, and like they see, the Kate Courtneys out there like winning world titles from America, and they're wanting to win national champs, and they're going for that Stars and Bars jersey sleeve. They need an outlet to do that. And if they don't have that locally, then they're going to be struggling to try to find that when they, get to that point, because you do have to have USAC races in, you do have to have points, all that stuff adds up to go to that national level.
Mm-hmm.
And currently a lot of people are going to Indiana and Wisconsin to race these races. So we're trying to bring it into Kentucky. We're trying to bring it in for not only the youth, but for everyone else, because there's a lot of guys, from, all age groups that compete at the national level in Kentucky, but we can definitely have more of that.
Well, cool. And I know you may have some bias because of the planning efforts that you're doing, but talk to me about some of your favorite trail systems in the state.
Oh man. So I've bike packed the Sheltowee, and there's so many sections along the Sheltowee that could be the best ride spots that you could ever desire for. Some of them are like in the middle of nowhere, and you don't really go to them because they're not close to trailheads or other connecting trails and so on and so forth. But the Sheltowee as a whole is probably my top favorite. Pulaski County Park has really got a good spot in my heart right now. It's a ton of fun. Aaron Denny and the locals out there extremely great about keeping those trails running and clein.
I hear it's pretty flowy, but also some cool downhill stuff emerging.
Yeah,
for guys like yourself.
Yeah. We use that facility. It's not that far from Columbia, about 30 minutes. So we use that facility actually for our collegiate race in the fall that we host. And we do the cross-country portion over on High Line, Low Line, for those that are familiar. And we do a race there, and it's epic. It's fast. I mean, when you're climbing at PC Park, it doesn't feel like you're climbing as much as what you really are. And then the descents are pretty long. They're, 3 plus minus minutes long on depending which one. And then we do our downhill race over on High Roller, which collegiate downhill is not like full blown downhill at the smaller races, really. We try to tame it back so we don't break everyone off. And so this one's a little bit tamed back. It's good for a trail bike, but their flow line, High Roller, it's 2:40 to 3 minutes for the faster people. And we do our race on that. Yeah, there's a lot of good riding there. Lots of good options. My assistant coach was actually the last person to help put in all these new expansions. He trail builds outside of coaching. His name's Andrew Parson. I know that he's wanting to get back out there and build even more flow lines and downhill lines. It's just a matter of when grants and everything like that come through. And I've talked to park and county officials too about a steeper, more technical like edition of a trail, and how awesome that would be to add in as well, because they have land to do it. It's just about doing it at the right time and doing it when the funds are available, of course. But PC Park, definitely way up on the list. Green River is my local trails, and you can ride them year round, so it's hard to beat those. Year round riding is one of those things you take for granted when you live somewhere where you don't get to ride year round.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's always a very pleasant thing, is that Green River, they're always good no matter how wet it can be.
Do you know who the sort of the head trail gnome is down there? Just out of curiosity, who maintains those?
Yeah, I would say Scott Hess. It's a collective group, but Scott, the bike shop owner, is definitely the guy that knows everything about what's going on usually
Okay.
at the trails. Our trails have been pretty self-maintaining over the years. They are in the state park, so the state park may go cut down a tree or something like that every once in a while, but they're not putting shovels on the trails at the same amount that the locals are. So yeah, Scott's definitely the guy to know there at the Spokeezy Bike Shop in Campbellsville. And then Fort Duffield, that's definitely one of my other places that I love. Most people have never rode there. It's only like 20 miles south of Louisville, but it is a ton of fun. It's steep. Everything is rocky and rooty and technical, but you can do a 15-mile ride there and be pretty tired from it. It's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of jumps for like some downhill and enduro guys, but there's just good technical, flowy, fast, condensed riding. Everything's really condensed at Duffield, so you can go and like session little different spots of the trails back and forth. You can even shuttle there. Sometimes they've had like shuttle. They've even had downhill and enduro races there because there's a paved road that goes to the top of the trail system. It's typically locked off, but for events and stuff, they allow for shuttling. It's pretty unique. It's pretty awesome.
Cool. Very good. Well, so I guess drilling in a little bit more about this year and the way that you've pivoted, I thought what I'd do, if it's okay with you, is to actually bring up the virtual challenge site, if that's okay with you, and you can kind of talk to us about what's happening. If you want to talk a little bit about the curveball you were throwing, because you're involved, I guess, with various folks in organizing, setting up a series of 4 races, and you had to pull back from that. So talk to me just a little bit about the process that you went through to arrive at deciding to host a virtual challenge this year.
Right. So our first 2 races of the season were in May and in June. And those first 2 races were both going to be at state parks. Green River at Sugar Camp, but that's on state park land. So Jenny Wiley State Park there. And the state park permitting process has, been stopped for events for, the foreseeable future. They're not really sure when events are going to be permitted through the parks yet again, which is understandable, obviously. So instead of rescheduling rescheduling races, especially this year because of all this, if someone has to reschedule a race or 2 because of a storm, it's not a big deal. But when you have, 10 race directors throughout the state all trying to reschedule races for a short window in the fall,
right,
you just put 4 and 5 races on the same weekend and it helps no one. Right. It takes away from your event. It takes away from their event. It frustrates racers from, having to decide which one to go to, or if their entry fees are getting deferred and not refunded, then they're losing out on spending maybe 3 race entry fees on one weekend and only getting to pick one of them. So it's a terrible situation of decisions when it goes to that. And not knowing what the fall looks like. We decided to pull it because of that. The next 2 events between the July event and the August event were very likely to be, questionable or changed, obviously in some way, shape, or form of what we know as racing. It's really hard to be sanitary around a porta potty. So having adequate hand washing stations and having, correct spacing and everything like that. It's a hard thing to do at a lot of mountain bike venues. And you can do the small group starts and do things like that.
Hmm.
That leads itself to a lot of other issues on lap traffic, way too much clutter and not a real racing feel. I mean, it turns everything into a time trial when you have to do
Hmm.
that,
Hmm.
because then you are just looking at the clock and everything like that, which is good and bad in its own sense. But there's a lot of questionable things going on. There's a lot of difficulty, and we're seeing it as just a way to scale it back and look at doing this virtual challenge online, at everyone's own pace. You can do it from anywhere in the world. Put a pause on racing until we can get back to what we consider somewhat normal. Who knows if it's ever going to be like normal? There could be a lot of guidelines that come out that we have to follow that we've not had to follow before, and that's going to be fine. But
Yeah.
definitely this year it's going to be a little bit more hectic and a lot
Yeah. So things may
more.
change and evolve in ways that we really can't envision quite yet, maybe.
Right.
All right. So in terms of this virtual, maybe you can kind of walk us through this, because I think one thing that jumped out to me is that it's broader than mountain biking. So it's really any kind of cycling. So there could be participants in this that go beyond the mountain bike community and still have a way. So I don't know if you sort of intended that or not, but can you speak to just tell us a little bit how this is going to work, or how this is
Yeah.
working, I should say, because it's already opened.
Yeah, exactly. So, the whole point of this is to be as open and simple as possible. With getting into the road mountain bike dilemma, if someone goes on a mountain bike ride on the road, like they're on their mountain bike on the road and stuff like that, and things get questionable for people. So we're just keeping it wide open. But it also opens the door for other challenges. Like if you want to do an Everesting challenge, that's an award that you can get. If you do it on a mountain bike, kudos to you. But in Kentucky, we're a lot more likely to do that on a road bike. So it's opening the door for those challenges, because it's not a race. It's not like, oh, I'm trying to beat a guy on a mountain bike and I'm on a road bike. Like he's not got a chance. It's not set up that way. It's set up for you to make these challenges and accomplish these challenges, and to do them in your own form. If you want to do an Everesting challenge on Zwift and tough that out, more power to you. It's the same as doing it on a road or mountain bike. Because it's all personalized racing, really. None of us will have the same ability and experience doing the stuff semi-remotely in a way. And that's why, getting into the aspect of like trying to set up a race like at a certain trail, and just race via Strava. There's a lot of legality issues with that and permitting issues that can't go through with that. But when you do that, it also puts into question, and you like give them a first, second, and third place for that kind of thing. There's open doors for, sniper lines, cheating, cutting trail, modifying results, whatever it be. And this is not that way. This is like, these facts are what you have on your Strava, on your GPS unit. As long as you're honest on putting them in and linking it with your GPS if you'd like to,
Mm-hmm.
then you're accountable for yourself. You're not messing anyone else up. And that's, a lot of people don't have races. I had a handful of races that I was planning to hit this year, planning to race some in Colorado, even at mountain bike nationals and doing various things like that. None of that stuff's going to happen. So, essentially myself and then, a few of my other friends locally, we are going after some of these challenges various times through the year. The long window of opportunity there is because there's some really high mileage totals. And then, you also have the chance to work up to like an Everesting goal. If you've been inside a lot these past 2 months, but you're a pretty fit rider and you want to do something big, by August 15th, you could be able to go do an Everesting challenge by yourself and, crush it and reach that challenge marker and, feel good about it. You don't have to always, this is, anti-race director talk, but you don't necessarily always have to race to be challenged and to like do something challenging and fun on the bike. I hope this works as a tool for people to see that there's a lot of things you can go do on a weekend ride without racing. So many people get caught up in the fact that racing is the only thing there is to do. racing's fun, and racing is a big part of what we know as cycling community, but it's not the only thing. There's a lot of things you and two other riders can go do on a summer weekend at your local state park or your local roads or whatever it be, or even with a friend across the country on a Zwift ride. There's a lot of things you can do that are not necessarily rubbing shoulders, bumping each other at the trails, getting your free t-shirt and getting your food voucher at the end, just to say you've done it. That stuff is small in the big picture of, the joy and the challenge that cycling can bring you.
So talk to me about how it works. It looks like total mileage is at least, it sounds like you may have multiple categories of things here, but
Yeah.
Total mileage is a big part of it. So you can do road, trail, or indoor, and it all counts. And it doesn't matter whether I guess there's different categories. So, right, you're a cyclist or you're a runner.
There's a cycling and a running category. You register for whichever or both. And yeah, you log your miles accordingly. Go out for a 5-mile run, come back, log it in the running page, go out the next day and do your activity again, and so on and so forth.
Is the overarching thing most miles in this period, or are there other things as well?
There's other things. And further down on the page, we have some info about that.
Okay.
That's a swag item there. Everyone that can, participates in the challenge gets a neck gaiter.
And was this motivated by COVID-19? Have you ever done a neck gaiter for?
I wear neck gaiters a lot in the winter when riding or trail running, just as that small little layer of warmth to get the air off your neck. But usually when going to run out to the store or something, that's what I've been wearing as my face mask, because we have a ton of them, and it's pretty comfortable.
I didn't own one prior to all this, but Jerry James has been wearing one, and I thought, man, that actually looks pretty comfortable, a lot more comfortable and easy to take on and off than the traditional face mask. So
definitely.
Yeah. Okay, so you said total miles, climbing. So is this total elevation or like single rides, or how does that work?
Both. So single ride elevations like a Everest challenge, and then like total cumulative mileage over the summer period.
Okay.
All that, and it's broken down like 2 blocks lower into all the disciplines, I guess you could say, in categories.
And talk to me about single effort days. I mean, is this like most
100-mile ride, 200-mile ride, in place of that? If you had centuries planned, this would be a good way to sub out that century and do your own century, or, create a century wherever you are locally. If your local town don't have a century ride, you could organize that yourself, do it yourself, and actually be awarded for it and kind of put it on the books. So yeah, lots of single efforts. And if you're going to go crazy and do something like Tom Hughes does, you can do like a 200-mile day, which if you're doing an Everesting challenge, there's a good chance you're going to get close to that one as well, because usually it takes 150 to 200 miles in Kentucky to get those challenge goals.
For someone who's not likely to ever attempt an Everesting challenge in their lifetime, what's the elevation? I mean, you're trying to get to the elevation of Mount Everest. Is that kind of the basic concept?
Yeah. 29,029 feet.
Jeez.
Everesting challenge is taking one hill and just doing hill repeats. You go straight up, turn around at the top, come down, do it again. And like the only breaks that are really finger quotes allowed are like, restroom breaks, food breaks, fix the flat kind of breaks, but like, taking multiple hours off and then coming back to it, that's not really okay. It needs to be like a continuous flow of effort. If you really get it done within a day, you kind of have to keep trudging along, or else you'll be in the dark and have a really long time doing it.
Yeah. Well, cool. And so the period for the challenge, so it's already started, but I'm assuming not too late to join in. And it goes until August the 15th.
Yeah, you can register anytime, but your days that you can start counting your mileage start the day you register. So if you register today, your mileage starts today. You can't backlog like the last week or so. So sooner you register, the more time you have to put in. And even if you register now but don't really plan on going after like maybe a certain challenge until mid-June or July or something like that, that's fine too. You can add up your days and maybe get some other stuff along the way. But Yeah, I mean, even if you are registered August 14th, went out for a 100-mile ride, you would get the 100-mile award, a day before the challenge. And we'll leave it open for that whole time
Okay.
there.
Now,
Um,
what? So
yeah.
if somebody goes through the registration process, and do they get to see other people's metrics? I mean, do they get to kind of see like following along in terms of progress, how they're kind of ranking, or is there like a leaderboard, or how's that?
Right. So after you register, which you do on the Bluegrass Cup website, there's a registration link up at the top. Under virtual challenge, it's the drop down menu and says registration. Yeah. Hit that, add to cart between cycling or running, whichever one you'd want.
Okay.
Standard checkout process on a website, type of
Okay.
card number, and so on and so forth. After you do that, you're emailed a link for it's a race packet, and that race packet has some instructions about how you get started. Through that link, you have a check-in, form with the waiver, where you put your name in, your category, or like run, bike, all that fun stuff, and you're assigned your bib number that way. After you get that and you're checked in, you're ready to go start logging miles. So back up at the top, there's virtual challenge submission tab underneath the middle one. So this is it's super simple, and you can actually save this page to like your home screen in your phone just to make it quick and easy. Maybe put it by your Strava icon just to
Mm-hmm.
streamline the process. But you just put your name in, your bib number, the date you completed the activity, not necessarily the date that you're uploading, and you can upload a few days late if you need to. Just make sure your dates are right there. If it was a bike or a run, your mileage, your elevation, and you can add the Strava GPS link if you'd like. You
Okay.
don't necessarily have to add that link. I'm not requiring that. It's completely honor system based. But most people, pretty much everyone's put in their Strava GPS link, so I appreciate that. But yeah, you just hit that. After you hit submit,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it takes like 2 to 5 minutes. It seems like for the system to propagate like everything. So back up at the top, there's virtual submission totals, and that's where you can see the current, stats of everything. So if you want to go look at, cycling mileage and see who's got the highest mileage in, you hit the plus out beside that,
Nice. I
and
like it.
then
This is
got it there.
public information. Woohoo!
Yeah. And,
All
and
right.
this board right here, like as you see, it's not editable.
Yeah.
It can only be submitted through that form, and then it goes straight into here.
Yeah. 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 So you
But
got a, yeah, I like this. This is cool. So you're using a Google form, which is populating to a spreadsheet, and then I guess you're kind of rolling up that data to displaying it here, which is pretty cool stuff. It gets the job done. That's awesome.
yeah, definitely. And it's cool to see, there's a few juniors on this list. We've had a few NICA riders sign up, which is awesome. $5 from every entry fee does go back to NICA. I'm very happy to support the growth and the effort with the Kentucky NICA League getting started. Hopefully we can have enough interest here locally for us to get a chapter started in the Campbellsville, Green River Lake area very soon. But yeah, we're trying to support them a little bit with this because this is coming up on their first like official year, and they're going to need help getting that going. Bike racing isn't necessarily easy to get going, especially at that kind of level when it's so spread out across the state. Supporting them's a very cool thing that we can do as a community, because it's in turn going to make 10 years down the road more people to ride with, and probably more trails and more trail stewards and so on and so forth.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
cool. So you've got all these different. So basically, for running and cycling, you've basically are tracking mileage, elevation, and what's the order by? Oh, you're just
yeah,
sorting it by bib number for
Yeah, just
information.
to like go through and like maybe find yourself easily and like find people in certain ways.
Gotcha.
That's more
Gotcha.
about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah. So this is, I guess, a leaderboard by total elevation as opposed to total miles. That's cool.
Yep. And once again, it's not a race. Like, it shows
Right.
who's done the most at the top, but you're not awarded for being on the top of that list at the end of
Right.
there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. So that's interesting. So I know some folks in the road community may be attracted to this. It's a little different, so it may skew some of these numbers. So
Yeah, the true mountain bikers that are getting a lot of numbers on there are working a little bit harder than the
yeah,
road riders that are getting numbers on there typically, at least for mileage.
yeah, for sure.
Time
Yeah.
trialers also like it. Your TT guys and your tri guys, they like chasing numbers too. So we've had a few of them on here as well.
Yeah. Well, good. I guess that kind of covers it in a nutshell. Is there something else that you would tell us about the virtual challenge?
Yeah, if you want to go back to the main virtual page, I can kind of, you know, give a just keep scrolling down for a bit there, and there'll be like a big red block.
Okay.
Or yeah, blue and red there. So
Okay.
cycling, since we're on a cycling
Okay.
thing, you know, those challenges we were talking about, these are those challenges. So your total mileage, 3, 15, and 500 miles, climbing awards, Everest, 100K and 50K, and then single rides. And if you notice, the Everest is a one ride climbing award,
Mm-hmm.
um, and then the other two are your accumulative, you know, throughout the whole summer awards, and then your single ride achievements, 200 miles, a century, and a 50-mile ride. And you know, 50-mile ride may not sound like a lot for a road cyclist. You know, that could just be a leisurely Tuesday ride. But for a mountain biker, that could be a big thing that they're working up to, or for a junior, that could be a big thing they're working up to.
Yeah.
So you know, we've tried to throw in some like slightly hard challenges as the what would be like the lower tier of the challenges. But for some people, especially the beginners that need this extra push, or we're going to use a race as motivation to get that extra push, throwing some things in there for them to chase after.
Yeah. Cool.
Um,
Yeah. So you've got sort of these leaderboards that are sort of rolled up, but you've got the access to the more granular data. For those people who are kind of doing these, you know, 1 day challenges, I guess will you just announce, I guess, at the end?
yeah. So after they submit the info, it goes into a form on my end that
Mm-hmm.
is it's gibberish essentially on, you know, the visual end, but I can go through and see like, you know, oh, Nathan did a 200-mile ride
Not
back
this
in
Nathan,
May.
maybe some other Nathan, but you know.
And you know, be like, okay, note him for getting the 200-mile award. And at the end of this, we're going to deliver the awards to everyone that you know that you all accomplished. You know, you can get multiple awards. You can get a 3,000-mile achievement plus an Everest plus a 100K
Okay.
climbing.
It's more like an achievement. You're not competing against other people per se, right?
That's it.
So
That's it. Mhm.
yeah, good deal.
Yeah. So, you know, at the end, after you've achieved all you can achieve in that amount of time, we're getting awards made, and we're testing out some different, like possibly some laser cut wooden medals.
Hmm.
Currently with Mike Wishman from Wishman Woodworks and Next Opportunity Events. He hosts a lot of 100-mile, like ultra kind of level races in Kentucky. He makes really cool awards. And those are what we're going to be finishing out developing and sending those, and hopefully we'll have some like progress on showing those here within the next few weeks. We're kind of just making sure we do it right and cost effective and everything like that, because we have that
Yeah.
time frame to do so with the virtual event. But yeah, essentially
So,
that's
so are the running awards? The running achievements are a little different, right? I mean, they wouldn't be as long, and they wouldn't be
exactly.
as high. Oh, we
Yeah.
got a black mountain climbing award. That's pretty cool. Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
Everest twice. Whew. Jeez.
Yeah, yeah. If you can add up your climbing elevation to be 58,058 throughout the summer, you're doing something legit. But you know, a lot of your ultra marathoners and a lot of your like crazy tough runners, they'll do a lot of climbing in place of mileage sometimes, depending on what they have coming up. So I'd love to see someone get that award. That's a tough one.
Cool. Well, cool, man. Is there anything else that we should look at on the site?
Probably not. Just a lot of, you know, bullet points about the small fine print of how it kind of works and everything like that. We try to be as thorough as possible with all the info. But if anyone has questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Good deal. So just kind of recap. So it started May 17th, not too late to join, goes through August the 15th, and the registration fee is $35. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Can you is that registration, do you have to register as either a runner or a cyclist, or is it one registration for both?
No, you'd have to register for either cycling or running. If you
Okay.
did both, you know, you'd be charged, you know, a $35 fee for cycling and a
Okay.
$35 fee for running. So yeah, they are two different registration
Good deal.
links there.
All
And we
right.
have some people doing both. Some people are really tough like that and are putting in miles for both almost every day. So that's been cool.
Good deal. Is there anything else that I didn't ask you about that you'd like to share with the Kentucky cycling audience?
We covered a good bit, especially about the Bluegrass Cup and like kind of challenges we're facing with that right now. Advice would be to just keep riding your bike safely this summer. We're in a good place compared to some places in the world with like restrictions and everything like that. We're pretty open. A lot of my friends in Southern California and various places, they can't ride a mountain bike. They can go on road rides, but they can't ride mountain bikes. So we've got it good compared to others. So yeah, just keep being safe, and have fun. Let it be a summer of having fun and not stress, and maybe trying some different things that you wouldn't necessarily do in a busy season of every weekend racing somewhere or something like that. Go on some epic rides and do things a little differently. I know that's what I and a few others are doing, or because of the less travel from coaching and races and all that stuff. Like it's freed up a lot of time, and good in some ways because it's giving you that time to go and do the things that you normally don't have time for, whether it be checking new trail systems, going on epic rides, or just doing something slightly different. So yeah, use it as a kind of silver lining to try that stuff out.
Well, cool, Josh. I really appreciate it. And I just want to say, kind of in closing, that Lindsey Wilson has a special place in my heart. Years ago, there was a Gabraki road, like a road touring ride that traversed the state from north to south. And Chris Schmidt actually was real involved with that. And down there at Lindsey Wilson, and that was one of the stops that we had. So we always that last day of the ride, we stopped there at Lindsey Wilson and had a brunch in the cafeteria. Really beautiful campus, beautiful area, beautiful roads certainly in that area. Lindsey Wilson's a cool place. So Columbia, just a beautiful area of the state that maybe a lot of people haven't visited. So I want to give a shout out to Lindsey Wilson.
Oh yeah, thank you for that. I'd argue that we have some of the best road riding in the state because it's rolling farmland, and I mean, if you look at the population in Adair County, it's pretty low. So it's not a lot of cars. Sometimes you'll see more dogs come out to the road and say hi to you than you will have cars pass you, and that's always a good feeling just to
Yeah.
be on
Well, and just
rolling
south of
film.
you guys too, like down in maybe Union County, you kind of drop down in this valley, and I mean, it's beautiful, beautiful area of the state. So, well, thank you very much. It's great to make your acquaintance, and I'm sure you were all looking forward to a time where people can be back out and racing. But I think what you've come up with this year for the Virtual Cup is a really cool thing, and hope people check it out.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, man. Enjoyed being on.
Thanks again to Josh Patton from the Bluegrass Mountain Cup for being a guest in the Kentucky Cycling Connection series. If you enjoyed this content, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thanks.